Sinnoh, the mysterious, lore-rich region from Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, is being revisited in more ways than one with Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, as well as Pokemon Legends Arceus. Today, I want to discuss what town or city from Sinnoh's modern structure may have started out as the village we see in Pokemon Legends Arceus. But first, to completely understand this, we have to fully grasp Sinnoh as a whole. Let's start with the brief overview of Sinnoh. Ash Ketchum in the anime refers to Sinnoh as an island, and Professor Oak mentions it's located north of Kanto and Johto's mass of land. We also see an island at the top right in Sinnoh's map, which we all know is unlocked in Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum's post-game. I checked all the maps I could find, and this island, known as Sakhalin Island, apparently is a part of Russia. However, in the years 1855 to 1875, and in the years 1905 to 1945, Japan and Russia agreed to let Japan use the southern part of the island. Assuming Legends takes place in 1855 to 1875, we might be able to traverse this island as well. Perhaps it'll be a post-game of sorts in Legends. Lastly is the island of Kunashiri, which eventually houses the Elite Four. We might also see this as a plot point in Legends. The routes in Sinnoh are routes 201 to 230. Which don't continue from Hoenn 101 to 134, even though the region was introduced right after Hoenn. Perhaps we'll also be proclaiming routes in Legends as well. Or maybe, as we find new areas that we can call routes, we'll get it shown on screen and then jotted down on our map for the first time, similarly to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, when you find new landmarks and settlements. Sinnoh has 3 lakes that house the legendary Uxie, Mesprit, and Azelf, as well as a secret 4th lake in Turnback Cave that housed Giratina in its altered form. I think we will definitely be seeing these lakes in a more natural condition here. The underground was a big part of Sinnoh games, and it's also where we found fossil Pokemon. Since we're taking place in the past and forming a Pokédex for the first time, I think we will see fossil Pokemon in the overworld, probably in a never-before-seen area. Or maybe we'll see them as some sort of in-game event, making them come off as special kinds of Pokemon. They can even be overworld bosses like the one we saw in the leaked screenshot, which I talked more about in my Leaks Translated for Pokemon Legends video. You can totally give that video a watch after this one too. It was pretty fun. Now, let's look at the towns themselves in relation to everything we know about the settlement we'll be starting out in with Pokemon Legends. When it comes to our little settlement, we only know a small handful of things. 1. That there is an exit that does not face Mount Coronet. 2. That it is bustling with comings and goings during this time period. 3. That it has to have a long history since it's already developed in Legends. 4. That it must have ties with Team Galactic's past based on all the galactic designs on the player character and the office that we see in the trailer. And lastly, that it has to have a good location on the map to set up for explorative traversal from the onset of the game. This is essentially keeping good game design in mind. Now, for the towns themselves. Let's start with Twin Leaf Town. At first glance, Twin Leaf looks the same as the mysterious village we see in the Legends trailer by its layout alone. This would be a decent spot to start the game out in as well, since it's located at the bottom left portion of the map. However, all exits from this town would almost have to show Mount Coronet as they'd be facing north and east. With Mount Coronet being at the center of the map and splitting the region in half, this doesn't really seem to line up. I guess you could exit facing away from these, but that would be weird game design for an open world game to spit you out facing away from the, well, open world. On top of this, Twin Leaf has no direct ties with Team Galactic in any capacity, and I have no reason to suspect it may have in the past. Even further to my point is that this town isn't geographically located for the bustling comings and goings of people, and typically when a settlement starts out that way, it either advances further and grows bigger, or it takes root in its cultural influences and gives an emphasis on that. Twin Leaf lacks either of those traits. The next town we can look at is Jubalife City. It's the largest and most advanced settlement we see in Diamond Pearl Platinum. If we go along with my theory of the bustling village from Legends growing to be bigger and more advanced, Jubalife becomes the prime suspect for what our little village later becomes. However, there doesn't seem to be any deep ties to Team Galactic here, and once again, this would be an odd part of the map to start Legends in, as you'd have to exit to the east and see Mount Coronet, or else the game design would be too weird for words if you left in any other direction. Then again, I suppose you could exit to the south and it wouldn't be too jarring. Now, to talk about one of the three main contenders that I believe the village in Legends later becomes, Eterna City. If we look at the map and see Mount Coronet at the center of the map, it would actually be very interesting if we did start the game at the foot of the mountain, similarly to how we start out in the Great Plateau for Breath of the Wild. This means we would have one entire half of the map to explore and maybe unlock the right half on the other side of the mountain later when we obtain a Pokemon that can help us climb it like we see in the leaked screenshots for Legends. On top of this, Eterna is rich in culture, which makes a lot of sense with the village in Legends being such an early development. Being at the foot of Mount Coronet would also allow for comings and goings of people, as Mount Coronet is so central to the region. Team Galactic even has a base of operation here in Diamond Pearl Platinum, meaning there are definite ties to Team Galactic in this town, as well as a rich cultural history. While the layout might not look quite like the village we see in Legends Arceus, there is an NPC that states this town looks nothing like what it used to. For now, I'm leaning on Eterna City being the village we start out in with Legends Arceus. But what about just on the other side of the mountain? We have two options here. First, let's look at Celestic City. It seems so similar to Eterna. Much like Eterna, Celestic City dives deep into its culture and rich history. Also similarly to Eterna is how old-fashioned Celestic looks. Honestly, it looks even closer to the village in Legends than Eterna does, both in layout and in traditional architecture. The shrine in the middle also reminds me of the exit to the village we see in Legends that houses a bell on one side, which is very shrine-like to me. Of course, that bell probably has more purpose than just to honor nature. I imagine it's to warn a vicious Pokemon or something too. Either way, the only thing missing from Celestic is its ties to Team Galactic. But I do wonder, which town came first? And depending on that answer, which one will we start in? Will we see both settlements across from each other in Legends? These are such fun and exciting questions we get to ask ourselves now. Another city is on the right side of Mount Coronet, and it's another top contender for what our little village may be. Similarly to Celestic and Eterna, Hearthome is located at the foot of Mount Coronet and would be a great geographical starting point. It also seems to have a rich culture and history, but in a different way. It seems this city has progressed to be a more modern, bustling center, with some key ties to the past still littered in there. This makes Hearthome seem like another really strong contender for what our village becomes. We have the Foreign Building, which is a cathedral of sorts honoring the meeting of different people and cultures. This aligns perfectly with how the village in Pokemon Legends Arceus was described to be. We also see Amity Square, an area you can take some of your Pokemon out to play in. This would also be a callback to how Pokemon once roamed free out in the wild, and this section of that may have been preserved to honor and respect that by allowing your Pokemon to come out of their Pokeballs for activities other than fighting. To top this all off, Hearthome sports several gates as its exits. As we know, our village in Legends has at least one gate it's used for entering and exiting. Perhaps it further developed into these more advanced gates. The one thing about Hearthome though is that it has no direct ties to Team Galactic. However, maybe part of its modernization was releasing itself completely of those ties. Who's to say for now though, right? Either way you look at it, we can all agree it's exciting to have something fun to speculate on in the world of Pokemon again. Pokemon has always had so much potential to be a wondrous world for us to explore in the games, just as much as it is to see in the anime. We're finally getting that potential realized with Pokemon Legends Arceus. When it comes to which city the village grows to be, I really am split between Eterna, Celestic, and Hearthome City. Personally, I think Eterna would make the most sense over the other two, solely based on its geographical location, because most game designs typically have you starting out in a leftmoor area and progressing to the right. Like I said, I can see us having the entire left side of Sinnoh to explore until we're able to climb Mount Coronet with a Pokemon and explore the right side of the map as well. But let's talk about it together in the comments. You know I'm loving these conversations with you guys. We've been having them on my other videos that I've made on Pokemon Legends Arceus, and continuing the discussion is all I want to do right now. So sit back, watch my other videos, and let's talk.